Okay, pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to watch or listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner. Video conference with login information on the agenda for the planning board on the town website. In-person attendance of members of the public will be available, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Topsfield website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. That said, I am delighted to call this meeting of the Planning Board on March 18th, 2026 to order. And now, Catherine, this meeting is being recorded via Zoom in the event that the connection is lost at any time during the meeting. The meeting is also being recorded by Topsfield Cable TV and will be available on the Topsfield website Cable Video on Demand page. Is there anyone else present who wishes to record the meeting?
Yes.
Catherine Carlson would like to record the meeting. Very well. Okay, I'm kind of back and forth here. Okay, as you all know, this is our annual public hearing for proposed zoning articles on the town warrant for town meeting. And just so everyone knows that by law, the planning board needs to make a report to town meeting on any articles that affect zoning, any changes in zoning. So that's what this is all about. And this is the public hearing on proposed zoning and general code bylaw modifications for the annual town meeting. Now, that said, will be another long, speech. I'm asking our clerk to read the legal notice for this public hearing.
Very well. Notice is hereby given that the Topsfield Planning Board will hold a public hearing during a Zoom Planning Board meeting on Wednesday, March 18th, 2026 at 7 p.m. Instructions will be on the posted agenda at https://topsfield-ma.gov/planning. Yes. On how to join the meeting via Zoom. To discuss and make recommendations on the following proposed amendments to the Topsfield zoning bylaw to be considered at the May 2026 annual town meeting. And following is the list of articles. Amend Article 4, 4.06 accessory buildings to limit accessory buildings to 50% of the size of the principal structure and to require locked 4-foot gates around swimming pools. To amend Article 4, 4.12 parking to clarify site plan reviews, current parking requirements for a new business, as well as to count on street parking immediately in front of a new business. Amend Article 7, 7.03 accessory dwelling unit, ADU, to stipulate that ADUs do not include anything not mounted on a foundation, and that one off-street parking space, in addition to that required for the principal dwelling, is required for an ADU if all portions of its lots are located outside a half-mile radius of a transit station. Amend the general bylaw, chapter 197, scenic road bylaw, changing the required permit from a special permit to a permit. There is also a citizen's petition to amend Article 1, definitions 1.23, conference and event facility, to state that a conference and event facility permit can only be for indoor facilities that amplified music and is, excuse me, I flubbed that. Conference and facility permit can only be issued for indoor facilities. That amplified music is only allowed indoors, that in residential districts are restricted to historic buildings, and that noise levels shall not exceed 5 dBA above ambient noise levels at the property boundary. A copy of the text for the proposed amendments are available for inspection prior to the public hearing through the town clerk's office, Town Hall, 8 West Common Street, Topsfield, Mass, during normal business hours.
Thank you, Steve. Now, at the outset, I need to explain that there are a couple of problems with the legal notice. The first is that there is a parking bylaw listed that was retracted after the legal notice was sent in, so we won't be talking about parking. The other thing is that for reasons that I cannot understand, the articles. Excuse me, can you mute your phone, please, iPhone? That one of the articles that we have put forward to town meeting and is on the warrant somehow or another is not on the legal notice. I can only imagine that this is a result of the rush in which all of this was accomplished before our administrator resigned. And the problem here is that I would not be comfortable recommend speaking to town meeting about the one that's missing if we know that it hasn't gone through the legal process. And number two, I certainly don't want to send something to the Attorney General for review if we haven't done the proper public hearing. Now, any member of the board like to say anything about that? I'm seeing Jenny looking, pensive. Yeah.
It,
No.
it, it might help to explain to all present that the article that did not make it is, explain which article that is.
It's the restaurant article. It's adding takeout food to the full service restaurant. Now, unfortunately, that the existing restaurant that's going through permitting is already in the process. This would not have affected them. That this can easily be done next year to accomplish what was recommended by the zoning board. Any comments?
And we don't have time to do another.
We don't have time to do another. I don't think we do. I wouldn't know how to do it anyway. We don't have anyone to do it, so, um, I suppose we could, if we hustled, but we need 2 weeks ahead of time, of the public hearing. Anyway, it's a problem. Yeah, we could, potentially, try to hold another public hearing. It's not a bad idea, Jenny. I can check into the calendar to see if that's possible. Okay, but we certainly can proceed with all of the other things that we have on our agenda. Okay, so uh, we're now in the public hearing. Everyone, the members of the board will be speaking first about the articles, after which time any citizen who would like to speak will be welcome to do so. Um, Here, I'm not sure what's happening. Anyway, so are we all clear as to how we're going to proceed? Uh, I can bring up the warrant, I think, you know, um, and that might help.
While you're doing that, Martha, can I have CMP 41 identify themselves so I can put them into the minutes? And there are 2 iPhones that I have not identified.
Okay, one iPhone might be Bernard Police 248 Raleigh Bridge Road.
I'm sorry, you can say Bernard?
Yeah, D Police.
Yeah, Bernie D. Felice. Okay.
Thank you.
And the other one is Scott Weatherby, 254 Raleigh Bridge Road.
Thank you, Mr. Weatherby.
You're welcome.
Okay. I've got it. Yeah.
And
Okay.
actually, while the iPhone folks are paying attention, if they could mute their phone, that would be great.
What was that, Zilly?
Just since the iPhone people just spoke, I thought they might hear that it would be great if you could mute your microphone. during the presentation part.
Okay.
Okay, on the warrant, the Article 33 is to modify the accessory dwelling unit bylaw. And if you don't mind, I can present this. That the original ADU bylaw that we passed last year at last year's town meeting included two items that the Attorney General disallowed. We had do not include recreational vehicles or mobile home trailers, however mounted. That was disallowed. What they will allow, and town council, wrote for us, is that we substitute or anything not mounted on a foundation. Okay, that's the language that they will accept. And the other one is that we need to state, and it's number 5, little 5 in the use and dimensional requirements, one off-street parking space in addition to that required for the principal dwelling is required for an ADU if all portions of its lot are located outside a half-mile radius of a transit station. Okay. This will bring us into compliance with the state requirements for an ADU. Anyone care to talk to this, speak to this, board members? No? Any member of the public?
Yes, I'm sorry. This is Dick Gant.
Yes, hi, Dick.
Hi.
Can you put your camera on, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Am I there?
Yes, there
Yes,
you
I
are.
am. Thank you. All
Welcome.
right. I'm sorry. On the fly, I just realized some of that is already text that's in the present zoning, I believe. Isn't the one street parking, isn't it just an addition at the end
Yes,
that's being added?
yes.
So the way that text is written, it's all bold and italic. I think that's incorrect. The first part is it's not an insertion. It's already there. It's the last part that's an insertion. How did it get to be that way?
Okay, well, we discussed this before, and you and I, and it is the case that we can find the language, although it's not on the website yet, that was there. I found it for the previous one, or mobile home trailers, however mounted. Um, it it is possible that we could show what was in the original ADU bylaw and then show this as the new language.
I think it's simply a matter of taking this first part and turning it into normal text, and then having the part that says if. Isn't that the part that is added to that? I'm sorry, I don't have the original in front of me.
Well, I don't have the original in front of me either. I am happy to go back and find it.
I think at this point, the most important thing is to see if we just agree on that that sentence as it's written, unless somebody has a question about what was there before.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying. And I say without having the original one readily available on the website, it was, I had to kind of scrounge around to find out this first change that happened. But I can do that, certainly. Do other members of the board agree that we should take a look more closely? Because I do think it said one off-street parking space in addition to that required for the principal dwelling is required for an ADU. I think Dick is right that that was the original language.
I don't think it matters a whole lot. I mean, what we're suggesting is that we end up with what appears in bold and italics.
Right.
And if it's already there, that doesn't matter if we agree that it's here. So if this is just a matter of housekeeping, but I get your point, Mr. Gant.
Yeah, I've just changed it to what I think Dick believes should be the case.
I think he's right as well.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay. Zilly or Jenny, any comments on this? No?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. If
Okay, thanks, Jenny. Okay. Okay, so that's the first one. And that was advertised in the legal notice, so we're good with that. Here's the restaurant
This is
one.
John Monaco. Just a quick question for my own curiosity. What's a transit station? I mean, do we have transit stations in
Oh,
Topsfield?
the closest transit station for us, I think, is Wenham.
Okay, thank you.
It's maybe 3 miles away.
Yep.
Yeah, the original language assumed that the Attorney General would know that Topsfield didn't have any public transit, but I guess that was, um, certainly not something that they did. Okay, this is the restaurant one that was not advertised. You can see what the intent was to allow for takeout service, um, you know, f- uh, for full service restaurants. Right now, a full service restaurant that wants to do takeout has to get two separate restaurant permits, and that this would just simply make them need only one. Okay, then we have the Article 35 is amend scenic road bylaw. This isn't a zoning bylaw. We doesn't need a public hearing, but for the public's benefit, all this does is to take out, the special permit and leave it as a permit. Then we have the exciting Article 36, which is to deal with accessory buildings. Background for this is the building inspector raised a couple of issues with this because he has been asked to issue building permits for accessory buildings that are very large. And he wanted us to come up with something that could, qualify how big an accessory building could be. So we did some research and looked at other communities, and essentially 50% of the principal structure is fairly standard. However, in another instance, it was asked whether it was the all accessory buildings, that each accessory building could be 50% of the principal structure, or whether it was the total square footage of all accessory buildings. And we had talked briefly about adding language such as the total square footage of all accessory buildings and structures cannot be greater than 50%. Do we remember that discussion?
Yep.
Yeah. So what is the wish of the board here?
Well, I think it's important to remember that all accessory buildings are still bound by our setbacks.
Yes.
So there's only a certain amount of square footage on any particular lot that can be used for a building.
Right.
I'm of mixed I think it depends on the size of the lot. If you have a 13-acre lot and you want to put up a couple of accessory buildings, I think as long as they're bound by what's permitted within the zone and the setbacks, as long as you're within that, I should think that you'd be able to make use of that. I'm not suggesting people do that, but I think a property owner might have the right to do that.
Okay, Jenny, Zilly? What do we think? Do we want to just leave it as it is?
Is there a way to, well, because I appreciate that perspective. I hadn't, if it's a very large lot, that does make it different. Because at first I thought, of course, it's like cumulative. That's what I assumed when we were writing it. But Steve's point is well taken. Is there, I'm trying to remember, is there a way to make that require a special permit different than like an additional permitting if you want more than one?
I don't think we can. I think
No.
as long as it's classified as an accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah, not dwelling, just accessory building.
Oh, accessory building.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Little brain moment there.
No, that's okay. It is, they both have that word, and for the public, it'll be important to distinguish, I think.
I have to, I agree that I originally thought it was the sum of all accessory buildings, which makes general sense. I keep coming back to farm buildings. However, farm buildings, agricultural buildings are exempt.
Yeah, we specifically exempt agricultural, buildings used for agricultural purposes, as Ipswich does.
Right.
This language came from Ipswich, and because I was very concerned about someone wanting to build a large, horse barn or, a cattle barn or something like that. But exempting agricultural structures means that, uh, anything of that type, can be whatever they need,
Right. But I'm not so sure I'd be excited about a neighbor putting up 2 or 3 large buildings to store building equipment. So I guess I'm mixed on this.
Jenny, what's your take on it?
Well, I've always read this as being cumulative.
So you think we should add the total square footage?
Yes,
Okay.
if that's what we intend.
Well,
I mean, I thought we intended, you can't put like 30 little
right. Well,
sheds all over
okay,
the-
so
I don't know.
I'm okay with this as a cumulative. I just wanted to voice that we had considered and thought about other options. But since agricultural use is not subject to this, then my main concerns are not valid.
Okay, so I gather that we're adding this language. Is that correct,
I think so.
everyone? Okay. Okay, and the other one had to do with the swimming pool. The building inspector indicated that the certain swimming, state standards were now allowing, retractable covers of some type. And that we felt that this was inappropriate. We've always asked for a 4-foot high fence. So what we are saying is essentially, no, you have to have a 4-foot high fence and you have to have the gates that are kept locked and that the exterior of the fence will not be climbable, so that you don't have children climbing the fence and getting into the pool area. So this answers one of his other concerns, so that he will be able to tell the people or any people who come saying they want to use retractable covers that no, Topsfield requires fences and gates and all of that.
They can still put their retractable cover on, though.
Yeah, they're perfectly well. It's really interesting how the the regulations for pools work. That if you use your house as one side or two sides of your pool, then all of the doors leading out into the pool area have to have alarms on them to alert, people that the door has been opened and that someone has gone out into the pool. And this is all for safety purposes, of course. Okay, so any comment on this one? No? Okay, well, I'm going to stop sharing so I can keep track of the waiting room, right? Um, okay, I suppose I should bring this up once again. Um, let's see, share. One more because we have the language.
The scenic road.
There we go. And here's the language for the citizen petition. Um, Now, I'm going to ask the petitioner who's present if he would please explain his suggestion here. Dick, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Uh, I'd like to put it in perspective as to what this actually does in more, what I would say, common language than legalese. Essentially, this amendment will protect residents from the noise and disruption that a conference and event facility can create in a residential neighborhood. The updated definition adds safeguards to the residential districts by allowing amplified music only indoors and only in historic buildings. It also limits noise from these venues to no more than 5 decibels above the ambient levels at the property line. The amendment does not affect existing conference and event facilities, nor does it restrict residents' personal use of their own property. That's kind of a summary of what this does. And I would ask that that text be added to the minutes of this particular meeting, and I'll be glad to forward that particular paragraph.
Happy to do it, Dick.
The issue here is that we have a situation in town where people can or business can request the ability to put it in a conference facility, essentially anywhere in a residential district. And I don't think people necessarily have a problem with it in certain settings, but in all cases, the noise is a big issue and the sound, because that disrupts the neighborhood. And in part by putting it inside, by specifying it inside, that is one of the ways of controlling the noise. And then we have the specific thing that says 5 decibels. And you say, well, how do you pick 5 decibels? Well, it is on a logarithmic scale, so it's not necessarily, it's just 5. It represents a significant increase depending upon which decibel level you're at. People often ask for examples, and I'll offer one. There's different ways that they're provided, but from one of the websites that does sounds and that, they would say that an amount of 60 decibels would be something like an office space, an office area or a normal restaurant. That would be about 60. 10 more would be like a plug-in vacuum cleaner. That just gives a sense of what it is. On the other hand, we here in the town have had experience with something like that much, 10%, 10 decibels more over what would be considered reasonable at the ambient. And it was found that that was far too much. So the 5, it seems like it is a fairly appropriate amount. It's significantly more than you would have as a sound, again, in a basic office or in a regular restaurant. But it is a significant amount more, but it's not as loud as a vacuum cleaner based on that's one particular website. Different ways, they all have that sort of thing to try to explain what a decibel is. Basically, the decibel is the amount of energy that's being put out by the audios. And I suspect Steve would be more of an expert on explaining all of the details of that. So those are my thoughts on it. The idea at the very beginning of the amendment is that it goes indoors because there have been cases where it's been outdoors, such as under a tent, and that the noise that comes out of that becomes a problem. And it certainly doesn't represent a significant structure that we're trying to have people that they can enjoy their events and conferences in. Thank you.
Thank you. For the benefit of the audience, it's worth noting that the planning and zoning boards have been talking about this for some time. And the background to the original conference and event facility goes back to 2005. And it was part of a series of kind of protective bylaws, preservation bylaws, based in this case on the Ipswich Great Estates bylaw. The concept from the beginning was that this would allow property owners of large properties that really weren't suitable for single family homes anymore, but that's all that was allowed in the district, would allow them to use the large historic property for a conference and event facility. And indeed, the Commons was the first one to come in, and all of their noise and activity today is indoors. Then Pierce Farm came along, and Pierce Farm, in recognition of the potential for noise irritation in the neighborhood, they're erecting a large greenhouse to be able to do essentially sort of outdoor kinds of events, but with the greenhouse containing the levels of noise from the music. So we have examples where this was used as it was intended. But I think, people forget, and the original intent kind of got lost during COVID. There was a thought to call Fairview Farm, the open field, a conference and event facility so that outdoor concerts could be held. And the neighbors all around Salem Road, Wenham Road, Route 1, all of the neighbors were very disturbed. So Cabot Theater withdrew its application. And then once again, it showed up with Connemara Farm, and that was the sort of got backed into because they had originally been allowed to operate under an agricultural use. And then the conference and event facility, came up. They have taken many steps to try and regulate the noise. The sound barrier equipment, to monitor the music levels so that they don't get too high. There's no more live band. It's all DJs. So they've been making an effort to deal with this. And then when there was another potential elsewhere in town that is still kind of out there. And then when Alfalfa Farm wanted to the zoning board learned that they were not able to impose conditions, that only conditions that the owner was willing to accept, so that the conference and event facility, cannot have what are called arbitrary and capricious conditions imposed upon them. And that was something that the chairman of the zoning board brought up, I believe, when we were talking with the FinCom about these articles. And it's a matter of some concern if that's the case, which apparently it is. So that's a little history of all of this. Now, will agree, Dick is absolutely correct, that this has nothing to do with any existing facility, anyone that is either permitted or is grandfathered as a conference and event facility. So it doesn't affect the fairgrounds, it doesn't affect Willowdale or any existing facility that operates as a conference and event facility. And I also point out that one of the really neat uses of this was the Good Folks downtown, down Pallotta's music place. And there's a perfect example. It's all indoors. And the people love going there, love the music. It's a very successful operation, and they are permitted as a conference and event facility. So that's a little background. Now, I don't know whether other members of the board, I would hope you would all say something, so that I'm not preoccupying all of this. Yeah.
Well, I'm going down all of my talking points, and between you and Mr. Gant, you pretty much knocked off all of them. So I will underscore that over the last couple of years, the town has spent an enormous amount of money in dealing with the Connemara Farm conference and events issue. And that's for me, what brought this idea to discussion at Planning Board and Zoning Board was to try to make it easier for the Zoning Board to facilitate these sort of discussions. And then, of course, it does go back to the historic estates or the great estates bylaw from Ipswich. As we were trying to, as a planning board, give our citizenry who own historic structures and didn't know what to do with them an option that would preserve the structure rather than tearing it down.
Okay. Jenny? I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay.
Mute and unmute. Yeah, I mean, you guys have been quite thorough. And I am curious, I have a feeling that a lot of the folks here are here to discuss this.
Right. Well, after we all get our say, I'm sure there are many people who would like to, say something. But so Jenny, what do you think about this?
I mean, I think I was fine with this language before, and I'm fine with it now. I understand what the intent was behind the original bylaw, and I know that we're not trying to, quash economic growth in town. What kind of report do you think we are going to provide on the citizens petition? Like, what are you envisioning?
Jenny, could you speak up?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No one can hear me?
No one can hear you.
I didn't quite get that last bit.
Oh, I was just asking, Martha, what kind of report are you envisioning that we provide on a citizens petition like this? In what form? Just a discussion of what we have.
Well,
here.
you mean a town meeting?
Mm-hmm.
You mean a town meeting?
Yeah.
Well, we're obligated to give a report. I mean, and so what will happen is that we have to vote on this, and at a certain point after we close the public hearing, and whoever is, I think Steve is going to do this one, that Steve would report that the planning voted, however they voted, in favor or oppose or whatever it might be. But it's the same as any of the other reports that we do, where we get up and make a case and recommend yay or nay.
Okay.
At least that's what I was imagining. Zilly?
Yeah, before I talk about this specific one at the end, because I was also curious to hear public comment about the accessory building question. So I'm hoping we're going to get back to public
Sure,
comment. On
absolutely.
any of these. Okay. Yeah, for this one, I was opposed when we were reviewing our version of it. because I didn't feel like it was ready for, I didn't, my personal feeling was that it didn't, I could see what it was trying to address on behalf of residents, but having served on the master plan steering committee and having heard from, a significant percentage of town residents about what they are seeking out of for the future of the vibrancy of Topsfield, while preserving its village and nature energy. I had concerns about how this was framed. I was concerned about it being too restrictive. I'm very concerned about the 5 decibel because state law is 10 decibels, and I was worried that there might be legal implications there. I don't know. I haven't done the research because as a planning board, we did not choose to put this forward. So that's my last concern, is that I feel it's disingenuous for us to even share an opinion on something that we chose not to bring forward this year at this time in this form. I was really looking forward. I had some ideas that I didn't end up bringing forward yet because it's too early, but I had some ideas of other ways of going about some of the same hopes of what this was trying to achieve, but in a different way. I was looking forward to digging into that for next year, possibly with a totally different bylaw. Not amending this one, but something different. Perhaps Martha had mentioned something about entertainment. So I just personally feel like it would not be, I would not feel like it was appropriate for me to support this as it's presented at this time.
Okay, thank you. By the way, the 5 decibels is perfectly legal, but many communities do have their own noise levels that they're perfectly entitled to do. That we could, if we wanted to, pass a noise ordinance that set decibels wherever we wanted to set them. I think you can't, you know, be too aggressive, but the 5 decibel came, as Dick has pointed out, these are sort of exponential, levels that come up, and the 5 was one that Bob Moriarty came up with, having done some research on the matter, and that so that's where the 5 came from. The I, I I understand your point about the master plan, but and I've spent a fair amount of time looking at the master plan. So I'm kind of wondering, where does this fit or not fit with anything in the master plan?
Good question. Really, the biggest thing for me is just that there's I felt that this was reactive to specific projects that had concerns because of abutters. And as a planning board, I was thinking of that next to also the feedback of the overall population of the town. And I didn't so that I didn't like that approach, that reasoning of coming at it to begin with. But then more specifically, really it's the piece about there's a lot of talk in the master plan about like vibrancy, like a vibrant community where there's options for activity. I'm not sure that like conference and event facilities is the place to do that, because that's kind of more for outsiders sometimes, like
Well,
than
exactly.
it is, right? So that's where I kind of wanted to think about this in a broader sense of entertainment and making sure that we grow the vibrancy in the town while respecting the needs of a very residential community. My worries with this is just like I could think of too many scenarios where, especially the not like being so specific about not having amplified music when you could just monitor that through decibel levels. Like I I worried that it would start to make Topsfield look once again as a very non um enterprise friendly, even when it's like a community friendly endeavor that someone might be proposing, which something like alfalfa, as an example, could be. Like it just felt to me like it was sort of perception wise could appear that we were like reacting to some new endeavors, new enterprise in town with a hold up, no way, not here, not in my backyard. And I don't like that feeling. So at the end of the day, I just feel like right now I wanted more time. I wanted time to like look at it this coming year. I also haven't, I know you guys have talked about this much more and much longer, but I hadn't myself. So like that might be a part of this too. So I'm just kind of speaking from my heart, like where I'm feeling with this. And I did just a very high level glance at the decibel thing. Like I'd want to understand that a lot of it better.
Okay, thank you.
Martha,
Thank
can
you
I
for
offer-
letting me express that.
Oh, no problem, Tilly. That's what we're here for. Okay, Jenny?
I just wanted to offer my thoughts on the reaction piece, just, coming from, this is sort of, I deal with this a lot in my job. And, I think a lot of things are often reactive, but it's also reactive. Martha and Steve have like a history of knowing what was really intended when the bylaw was drafted. And then, bylaws sometimes get drafted and then they start getting used in a way that they know, it was not intended in the first place. So then like the reaction is really, oh, that's not what was intended. Let's try and address that issue. That comes up a lot in communities, and that's sort of how I feel about this bylaw, because the town in the town meeting, I mean, we are friendly to businesses and enterprise, but we also have zoning districts for a reason, so to say that, not allowing these businesses to come into the residential district and invite people from, to have their big parties right next to a bunch of neighbors. I mean, it makes sense that that's not what we intended back when the original bylaw was drafted. So that's sort of how I come at it. I mean, I agree with you that we want to be able to have a vibrant community. But, having huge outdoor parties for business, for profit is not exactly what a residential neighborhood is designed for.
Thank you for clarifying that, Jenny, because this does not preclude anybody from holding a large wedding, a private wedding, large parties that are their personal social parties. It's just that you can't do it as a business operation in a residential zone unless it's inside. And to the point of one of the original reasonings behind this, within an historic structure, because that helps us preserve the character of the town.
Right.
It helps us preserve why we all came here for the most part, those of us who are transplants, because we have that that level of preservation could always be higher.
All right, thank you. And I know Bob Moriarty isn't on this call, but he made a very compelling point in one or another of the meetings that we've been attending. And he said that when we know there's a problem, we fix it. And when we know that something is not being used as it's intended, we fix it. And that we do it all the time when we know that there's an issue. So that I will share that comment from him. When we met with the zoning board, members of the zoning board were, very, I think, very eager to move forward with this because of all of the difficulties that they have gone through, trying to fix problems, Anyway, so have all of the planning board members spoken who would like to? Okay, now let's open this up to the general public. And please wave at me, or something. Okay, we'll start with Tom Guidi. And could you tell us where you live, Tom?
Yes, I live at 40 English Commons. So, of course, I've lived through the experience of Connemara Farm, and I think that I want to follow up on fixing something that maybe wasn't anticipated. Um, the way that this particular provision was written, it says a facility. And I wasn't here. I've only lived in Topsfield 7 years, so I wasn't here when this was adopted. But I think I'd be surprised if the town meeting members thought that something outside was in a facility. I think they probably expected it to be in a building. And in fact, there really, as far as I know, there aren't any other conference or event facilities in town that are outdoors other than the Topsfield Fair. And that's only 10 days a year. And that's grandfathered, obviously. We've experienced the fact that outdoors events really are not compatible with a residential neighborhood with amplified sound. And I think the zoning board of appeals reached that conclusion, but because of the wording of the bylaw, they were a little bit handcuffed and they struggled with this and they want it clarified I think that would be the right thing to do. So I think this was a great idea. I didn't know it was in the works, but I do think that the proposal, the language is a little bit flawed. I want to say that I am a lawyer. I'm mostly retired, but I practiced for 42 years and zoning was part of my practice. So zoning has to be clear because if you don't say it, then it isn't. If you don't specify, then people can argue that it means something that wasn't intended. And if you don't include something, it's not included. So wording is crucial. So I have three issues. The first is that it says an indoor facility, but as far as this, I couldn't find any definition of indoor in the zoning bylaw. It's certainly not in the definition section. And I don't know whether there's a definition that would be binding on the zoning bylaw on the town.
Excuse me, Tom, the zoning bylaw preface says that it's the Merriam-Webster dictionary that, is used for,
All right, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
But would it be crystally clear from that definition that an event in a tent would not be considered indoors?
I believe so, but we certainly can investigate that.
I would check it because if that's not crystally clear, I think it would be important to make sure that it was. The second issue in importance is that it says music. What we've learned from experience is that restricting music is not enough. It's really noise. It's amplified speaking and amplified singing is equally obnoxious and interfering with the neighbor's peace and quiet. Um, and there's no way to really control it. By the way, the 5 decibel level sounds good, but if you can hear people at your back door or in your house, and it's only 5 decibels, if you hear people from a property next door to you that have amplified their music so you can hear them talking inside your home, it doesn't matter how many decibels it is, but it's usually not, interestingly, it's often not 5 decibels above ambient. If it's anything above ambient, you can hear them. So I'm not pushing that point. I just want to make it clear that you shouldn't restrict it to music. It should include any sound, any voice or music can't be amplified if it's outdoors. The third thing, limiting it to historic buildings, I understand now, Mr. Hall explained the reason behind that. I think it's a great idea to find uses for historic properties, but limiting any such facility in a residential district to an historic building, I think is so overly restrictive that it will doom this from passage, because most of the town is residentially zoned. The farms are all residentially zoned. How many farms have a historic structure that they could use? So this would prohibit people from turning farms into conference and event facilities, which really was part of the intention of this bylaw in the first place. In addition, taking an example, and I know these things aren't, bylaws aren't intended for a specific purpose, but the effect of passing this, restricting this to an historic building would mean that if Connemara Farm decides in the future to build a barn and no longer torment the neighbors with the music coming from the property, they can't do it because their barn won't be an historic structure. So I think that that's an unintended consequence, but I don't think a barn built on a farm to house weddings should be prohibited if you can otherwise meet the special permit requirements. That would just seem to be silly to me. I also wonder how many historic structures in the town are actually suitable for conferences and events. There might be a few large historic homes. I don't know how many there could be, but I don't think that is a likely way of making the town more friendly to enterprise by saying it has to be in a historic structure. I just don't think that's a practical limitation to put on this. I think the idea of making historic structures available for other uses, I have a lot of experience with the town of Danvers. I lived there for 32 years before I moved to Topsfield, and the Historical Society and Glen Magna Farm where weddings are held. And it's very difficult. They had to stop holding the weddings in the mansion because it didn't have an elevator, which would have cost $250,000 to install. So they had to use a tent outside. But again, historic structures are often not suitable for large groups. So those are my comments. I would hate to see this not go forward because of disagreement as to timing, but I think these are issues that really, need to be addressed. Thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you, Tom. I was trying to bring up our analysis. Um, we have been working on another preservation kind of bylaw, and we have, let's see, 69. There are over uh, 30 properties of 5 to 10 acres each that would be eligible for historic redevelopment. That the existing farms all of the existing farms involve historic structures because they're all old. They were built a long time ago. So we do have information about how many historic structures there are in town. Some
Would all those, excuse me, would all those have a building on their site suitable for a function facility?
We got to the point of recognizing this number of properties, and that indeed some of them probably, even though they're historic and they're on large lots, they may not have an appropriate structure. But with regard to the actual farms that exist in town, they all have historic structures. I mean, you've got a couple of couple of us here who own such properties, with, attack with barns and with, additional buildings that would be appropriate. But it's a very good question, and it's a very good point that I think we do need to think about. But it's clear that there are a lot of properties in town, some of which you can't even see and you don't even know that are there. And I was even surprised at the number of really beautiful properties that are out there that would be suitable, for a conference and event facility tucked away in residential areas, but they're historic structures. There was one thought that, oh, well, gee, maybe someone has a modern building, a modern house that's big, but I'm not so sure that we haven't even considered looking, or starting to look at that. But we do have a large number. We have, I think, over 200 or more historic structures in town. And of course, many of them are just small buildings. But anyway, that's, an answer. I'm not going to occupy this. I know other people want to speak. Who else wants to say something?
Martha, John Monaco. First of all, I think something like this is needed. I think it was overlooked when they originally, I don't know how many years it's been, but I think I agree with a lot of the people who just spoke here that something has to be done on it. As a resident close to Alfalfa Farm, I want to make something clear. The residents here, we never said anything about the Alfalfa Farm being rejuvenated, okay? The thing that lit the candle or lit the dynamite was when they stuck the tent out back, okay? That was number one. Number two is you mentioned something about the finance committee and I don't know what you're referring to, Martha, but I'm hearing in town from both the administrator and some of the selectmen, not all of them, but some of them, about the revenue generating. And I took this area once already and came up with the taxes being paid to the town in this area. And I defy somebody to take that and go against Camara Farms and also to Alfalfa Farm and say that they're going to generate more tax revenue for the town. Being in a residential area, I don't think was the thought process of generating taxes for the town of Topsfield. I always think generating is up Route 1, 500 feet or 1,000 feet on both sides and go up there and try to bring something into the town along Route 1. You're right. There's probably 80%, and for some reason, this town keeps buying property so that people won't develop it. I know why they won't develop it, because they don't want to increase the schools, and the schools, cost money. But the town buying up the land does nothing for us. I mean, as far as the revenue is concerned. So that's just my comments in general. I don't know about the finance. You mentioned finance committee.
Yeah, I'll clarify. Annually, we go to the finance committee to explain the zoning articles. And so we were there just explaining what the zoning articles were that were on the warrant, because the FinCom has to vote on those. So that was the reason that we were there. And, it had nothing to do with discussing, revenue generation or anything of that sort. It was, just an informational meeting that we had.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else like to speak? I think Tim, I see Tim, David, and Catherine. Right? Catherine?
Thank you, Martha. I appreciate the summary that you gave us. I had no idea that it's been in the works for so long. And before I say anything, I just wanted to say that I came into this very late. I didn't see that you were discussing citizens' petitions either on the agenda or in the linked documents on the website.
It's on the legal notice.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it. Maybe after the meeting you could point me in the correct direction. But in any case, One of I think the largest challenges that is faced by many communities is that noise has become omnipresent in our lives, whether it's noise from airplanes or cars or loudspeakers. And I think that the intent of what I hear tonight is absolutely right on, that we do not need any excess amplified noise by commercial businesses in our community.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Okay, Tim Harrington?
Hello, thank you. 281 Raleigh Ridge Road. I just want to state my support for this particular proposal. Maybe not in the exact language that it's written. I really did appreciate the comments of Mr. Guidi, I believe it was, from English Commons. I thought he made some really good points. However, I do believe that in the residential area, which is happening with
Tim, you drifted off.
oh, sorry. I'm in support. With maybe some
Okay.
reservations with a little bit of a tighter language, as Mr. Guidi had mentioned earlier.
Thank you, Tim. Dave Larson, I think you had your hand up.
Dave,
Dave?
did you have something to say, Mr. Larson?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Sorry, Steve.
Okay.
Sometimes it's better if I stay muted. But I did want to thank Tom for his, perspective on this. It was extremely informative, I think, and right on. I had two issues, and I've been following this for a while. One, I have a real concern about additional audible sound in a residential area. I think what it does is it potentially forces people to take legal action, which is not what any of us want. This is what we saw with English Common, and I think it's understandable. So I feel very, very strongly that this is needed to protect the residents of the town. The other issue, I'm a member of the FinCom, and just to give a little feedback to everybody, we discussed this last Monday, and it was a public meeting, and it was recorded, so I can certainly share a couple of comments. There were two concerns with this that were voiced. Number one, the comment was, and I see Heidi on if I misspeak. Number one was that the zoning bylaws are critical, that they be accurate. And Tom certainly spoke to that as well. Therefore, it was stated that they felt that the zoning bylaws should really come from the experts from the planning board, that they were somewhat uncomfortable with a citizen's petition on the zoning bylaw change. So that was one comment. The other was that the person in a quick read found this change to be difficult to understand. It wasn't clear to somebody. But those were the two comments. I'll give you that feedback. But I'm very strongly in favor of protecting the current residents from any additional audible sound, particularly, potentially could be 7 days a week. I mean, I live near Clock Park, and there's a number of areas up here where there's open areas. And Zilly, if you go down Boardman Lane where the Smith homestead was, there's a beautiful lot right next to it where you could put up a nice big tent there. I think the neighbors might have concerns also. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Would anyone else? If you wish to speak, turn on your camera and wave your hand, please. No one else? Really? Okay, iPhone, would you turn on your camera, please?
I can't, my camera will not go on. This is Bernie DeFelice, 248 Raleigh Bridge Road. If you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm definitely in support of this. Um, you know, I understand the intent of the town of Topsfield want to accelerate any growth in the town, but I'd also like to remind people of the fabric of Topsfield and why people live here. It's a rural area that people move to because of the fabric of the town. And the board members that are going to take this under consideration, I wish they would just consider if this type of a facility was next to their house. I don't want to diminish the fact the town wants to grow and thrive and so on and so forth. But it shouldn't be at the expense of the people, the residents of the town. I think it's the duty of the board members to protect the residents of the town of Topsfield. Again, I'm in support of this. I know the devil's always in the details in regard of the individual aspects of the bill or the warrant, whatever you want to call it. But again, I'd like to remind that I think that the protection of the residents that live here should be considered, and that should be one of the utmost considerations of the board members.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bernie. Anyone else? This is the time.
I think you have a hand up on one of the iPhones.
I'm not seeing it.
I don't see it. Oh,
I see an iPhone kind of flashing.
between mute and unmute.
I see Dave has his hand back up.
Well, this is Scott Weatherby. I live at 254 Raleigh Bridge Road. I am at ground zero. I have concerns with the traffic and the noise. It will affect my property majorly. And I'm just with you people there. I have some control.
I'd just like to remind the audience that we're not talking about any specific project anywhere in town.
Thank you, Steve. This really is looking to the future, to be sure. Thank you, Scott, for your comment. Anyone else? Dave Larson?
Yeah, just one additional comment. In terms of revenue to the town, I believe it's absolutely minimum. In terms of real estate tax, to put up a big tent outside. The building itself, that's a different story if you renovate it, but putting up a temporary structure like that, I don't know, but it's minimum, if any, revenue to the town. So that discussion.
Well,
There may be some food tax and things like that, Martha, but
yeah,
for me, not a deciding factor.
right. Well, I've done some research on this, and you're absolutely right. A tent is not assessed the way a building is. A tent is not a permanent structure, so you don't get real estate tax for the tent. You may get real estate tax for the cement pad that the tent is sitting on. You know, that could be assessed. And indeed, the catering we don't get meals tax unless the food is actually prepared here. That the caterers are taxed. You know, they pay their meals tax gets paid to the community in which they prepare the food. And that's what I have been told. And so there may be some minor, if they're, having a cash bar or something, that there would be revenue of sorts from that kind of thing. But again, it depends on whether that's all part of the package with the caterer. So you're right that even our existing conference and event facilities are taxed on the structures, in which they're located, or the structures on the land where, the facility is located. So yes, you're right about that. Okay, let's see. Anyone else? Remember, no more information can be submitted after we close this public hearing. So anyone wishes to speak? This
I'm
is
not from the public, so let me know if I should save this. It's sort of like a process question now, because a couple of Tom's points that I have follow-up questions about.
Go.
Sure, go
Well,
right ahead.
Well, mostly, ha, like well, first I did look up Merriam-Webster, and I'll just read you what it says for indoor. It says, of or relating to the interior of a building, living located or carried on within a building. So hopefully that means indoor, a building, not a tent with flaps.
Right.
Um, but the question about the historic building piece and the restrictiveness. So I know we're not discussing specific projects, but as the example of Pierce Farm or Evermore building the conservatory or greenhouse, like that's a new structure.
Mhm.
Would this prohibit them from being able to use that new structure for their events?
No, and they're already permitted. They already have their special
If
permit.
it came later, like if if in the future Connemara wanted to build a big structure for their events, would they be allowed to do that and use it for?
Ultimately that would be up to the ZBA, who grants the permit. That if the historic structure is an integral part of whatever their larger plan is, I think that is how they would approach it. But I won't speak for the ZBA.
So the
And
next
there
question
is
would just be like, can the citizen petition be altered to allow things like that?
Well, in fact, I was going to raise the question that we can't change the language of the citizen petition. Only the petitioner and his signatories can change whatever they have produced. But I would suggest that maybe Dick and Tom could speak. If this is a suggestion for Dick, that perhaps he could speak with Tom and see if he's willing to do anything or wants to do anything. Um, at least I think that might be a good approach. Dick, I don't know how you feel about that, but perhaps it's a suggestion to you as a petitioner, if you feel that doing something would strengthen your position or, you know, change it in any way.
I would be delighted to work with Tom on ideas that would make this to improve it. If there's ways that we can go ahead and improve it and bring it forward, we'll do that. As far as the actual mechanics of it, it would not be all the signatories to it that would I don't see how that would actually happen, but would happen at town meeting, perhaps.
Yeah.
We can talk about the mechanics of that in the future, perhaps, or in the next couple of days here. But yes, we should be open to any thoughts, and I would certainly be open to any thoughts that the planning board also brings up after having heard the hearing. The public, before you close the hearing, because you may wind up asking some questions as you talk of the various people who have already spoken. Take your inputs also into account, along with what other people have said here.
Okay, thank you. Catherine, I think you wanted to say something?
Yes, it may be a tangential question, but isn't there a different permitting process for the development of a commercial use in a residential area in any case?
Well, we don't allow commercial uses in residential areas, period.
Right, right. So a conference center and seminar, all of that kind of stuff isn't allowed in a residential area. So I don't know.
I perhaps misspoke. This requires a special permit from the zoning board, a
Mhm,
conference and event facility, and it's
mhm,
recognized that it is a commercial use. However, it can be allowed under, the proper conditions. And that
mhm.
was the intent from the beginning, that it would be, yes, there would be a commercial activity, but it was going to be indoors and it was going to be not disruptive to the neighborhood. That was the 20 years ago.
Right. Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking of is what happened at Inglesby Farm in Boxford, for example,
Yeah.
the development there, and certainly the evocation of what's going on at Connemara Farm, where it's an activity that's is theoretically agricultural expansion of agricultural use, which would
Well,
be different. Anyway, that
yeah.
was just a
Well, in both cases, the initial response to activities at farms had to do with what they call agrotourism. And this was supported, very strongly by the Department of Agricultural Resources. And certainly there are many examples across the state of farms that have developed all kinds of other activities to help support agriculture. But in both Inglesby and then ultimately at Connemara, they had a hard time demonstrating that they were using, I think it was 50% of their product and so on from farms in Massachusetts. So the lines get blurred, between what is actually farming and what is something else. Inglesby, I know, tried the same, argument, I believe. And I'm not sure how that all ended up. I stopped hearing about it, but there are these fine lines between what are truly agricultural uses, are acceptable uses on farms that are related to the agriculture, and then something that is not considered agricultural at all. So that's kind of the spectrum, that we deal with the farms. And I think Tom can, could for concern, would, agree with that was one of the big issues with Connemara.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I I would just like to chime in, as Dick was asking for PB members' responses. I loved what Tom had to bring to the table. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to take notes here at the same time. I do believe the ZBA would allow a new structure within an historic property, but perhaps that wording could be redone. The historic structures list that is maintained by the Historic Commission speaks of historic structures. So that might be reworded to something to the effect of structure within the property of an historic structure. But that point was well taken. And also the point of music, although singing is classified as music. So I wouldn't worry about that so much, but spoken word is something else. So perhaps changing that language to sound. But I thought those are very good suggestions. And Dick, thank you for being open to working with Mr. Greedy to work that out. And the mechanics, Madam Chairwoman, that has to happen at this point. It has to happen at town meeting.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Have we all said what we want to say? everyone? Okay, well, I would
I
entertain.
just want to thank everybody.
Thanks,
you.
Silly. Yeah.
So if I
Um,
may just summarize of the things that I've heard, the two primary areas, we'll work on any area that anybody wants to bring up, even after this meeting. If somebody has something they'd like to consider, I'd be certainly open to that. And I will work with Tom on the things that he has. But in summary, the things that we have are the issues of historic and how that relates to what we're looking for. And the second thing being the idea of what kind of sound. Is it music, or is it any sound, or is it amplified sound? And I think what I heard was it's amplified sound primarily, and amplified sound of any sort, not simply music. Is that a reasonable summary of what everybody has said? And I'd almost open it up to anybody else who hasn't even spoken if they wish to speak.
I think that
Take
I think
issue
that's
with it.
correct.
That is? Okay. That's good. Are you somewhat open to that, Tom? And I'll contact you then.
Sure.
Right. Okay. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
and just to remind everyone, or at least Tom and Dick, that we do have a definition of historic building in our definitions in the bylaw, and that's why
Mhm.
it says historic building. And the list of historic structures, I believe, is on the website. It should be. I know the building department has it.
We have it, yeah.
Yeah, if you need it, I have it. I have a copy of it. So that's why the term historic building was used as opposed to structure.
I also have a copy of the historic buildings sheet. It is currently not on the website.
Of
I
course.
had to get it through the Historic Commission, but happy to forward that to anyone who would like it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, John, did you want to say something?
No, I wanted to get a copy of that list of where can I get that? Then the
The historic structures?
historical charts.
You can
Um,
contact the Historic Commission, Elizabeth Mulholland.
Okay.
You can send it to you, or
Actually, the building department has it that they are required to refer to the historical commission any work that is proposed on these historic structures. So the building department does have the list so that when someone comes in,
And that would be the list that Steve's talking about.
yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a single
Right.
list, and that we all have, a number of us have it. The Historic Commission periodically updates it as needed. But I know the building department has it. It's in their, I'm sure it's in their permitting system that anything at any of these addresses gets flagged when a building permit application comes in.
Okay.
So
I
they
just
may have it very easily for you to get. Otherwise, I'm sure, contact, Steve or me,
okay.
and we can do
Just
something.
one other thing, and I didn't mean to do this when I spoke, and I did mention a certain, facility. Um, I guess I'm in favor because I don't want to see other people in the town of Topsfield go through what both Camara Farms and Amberwood has gone through. Um, and I think if there's some way of really defining it so people understand what they can do and what they can't do, it makes a lot of sense for the whole town. I, I didn't mean to mention anything in passing. I know this wasn't regarding that properties, but
Right.
the ironic part is that property is not on the historic list. I mean, that's what we found out. So,
Well, it was. Alfalfa Farm was on the list, and the existing house and carriage house are on the list.
and the silos, yeah, they were talking about the silos. The
Yeah, well,
silos.
it was the whole property, was listed to the best of my knowledge, and there were discussions with the Historic Commission about, I guess they were notified by the Historic Commission. Uh,
Okay, thank you.
okay, yes, and there are other properties that we're aware of, that have been interested in this sort of thing, and they're elsewhere. At least one of them is elsewhere in town. Again, right smack in the middle of a residential district. Okay. Have we all said what we want to say? Does any board member have any further question, comment, anything? Okay, well then I would happily entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
Didn't have to do a roll call. Jenny,
Aye.
Zilly,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay. Now we get to our discussion and vote on the various articles. Now, okay, let's go back to what we're dealing with.
While we're waiting on that, I'm staring at the historic structures list, and Alfalfa Farm 249 Rowley Bridge Road is listed. So
Yes, and there was a small, rather an issue that the Historical Commission raised with the building inspector that, a building was demolished and they didn't have, they hadn't gone through
we
the
hadn't gone through the
process for
process.
demolition with the Historical Commission. But it turns out that many of the buildings were in very poor shape, and so
Right.
they ended up coming down anyway.
But they should have gone through the process.
Yeah. Anyway, okay, so our first article is the accessory dwelling unit bylaw. Okay, that we
Can you
discussed.
share it again on the screen, just so I can look at it again as we go through?
Let me see. Here we go.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
no, not yet. Sorry. I'll get the hang of this. I need to, where is it going? I need to share, and it's not. All right, share. There we go. Okay, so the first one is the accessory building. And I believe that we've added the total square footage of all accessory buildings. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I want to highlight that because I have to send whatever changes we make uh, to the warrant. I have to send them along tomorrow. And
Can I speak to that before we move on?
oh, sure.
Sort of a speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah.
I don't want to complicate it and make a lot of changes at this stage. However, just on that off chance that someone does have, 20 acres, we gave a percentage to this principal structure. I was just wondering if there should be something that's relates to the size of the lot as well, because, if there were two of them on a really large lot, do you think it doesn't matter? I don't know. I just felt like I needed, because I just wanted to parse it out.
I don't think it matters. And as a lot of people have said, all of these zoning bylaws, we try to get as right as we possibly can.
Yeah.
But in the long term, everything is malleable and changeable, which is why we're making these changes now.
Yeah.
Inevitably, a few more years down the line, something else will come up, either state mandated or other towns will start accepting something differently, and we'll be looking at this again. That's why we're constantly looking at the bylaws.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And I can't imagine a scenario. Since it came up, I wanted to kind of make sure I didn't just fly through it. But I'm good with this language.
Are we okay with this?
Yes.
Okay. So Jenny, how should we do this? Should we vote on these individually?
I think so. I mean, if we're making recommendations for each, planning board recommends action, no action, right?
Okay, well, let's have a motion to accept, to recommend positive action on Article 36, the accessory buildings with the change that we've added tonight. Is that the right language, Jenny? All right.
Good.
So
Okay.
moved. So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Um, all in favor? Jenny,
Aye.
Zilly,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay. Um, I'm doing these backwards, you know.
Works.
We don't need to do a report for Article 35.
Correct. Since
It's
it,
a town code. So right, Jenny, we're not making any recommendation about this.
Yeah, we don't need to.
I mean, we do have to get up and explain what it is, but we don't have to vote on it and make a report.
No. I mean, do we want to anyway?
you know, it might be a good idea to say something very briefly, because someone in town who is not familiar will say, why wasn't that reported on or voted on? I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah. I mean, I'm perfectly happy to have a vote on this one. I mean, as I say, we don't need to do it. But if we want, let's have a motion to recommend positive action on Article 35.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. All in favor? Zilly,
Aye.
Jenny,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay. All right, now Article 34.
We can't do
Um,
that one.
Article 34 is the restaurant.
Yeah, it's a restaurant, and it wasn't in the legal notice.
Correct.
Sadness.
Okay. So I think, Jenny, your point, if we have another, another public hearing for this one in particular, but we need to figure out whether we have the time to get the advertising out.
What's the deadline for having it to the town to be published in the warrant?
Um,
Ooh,
well, I'm thinking,
Just was thinking to work backwards from that.
it's like
yeah, I'm not sure when the warrant's going to press. I mean, we could always send it along, leave it there, and we could have our public hearing anytime before town meeting.
We could do like select board sometimes does and have a meeting right before town meeting.
Right, right. Oh, exactly. No, they do
They
regularly.
do. Yeah, regularly.
All right. So what I'll do is I'll try to figure out, how we do the advertising. Um, I'm not sure. I I'll figure it out. And maybe, let's see, it's too late for an April meeting or at the beginning of the month, but we could have a special meeting at the end of the month, the end of April. That would give us the time. Okay? Okay, so we won't vote on this one tonight, right? I mean, we can't.
correct.
All right. Okay. So that was um so now we're at the Article 33rd, the accessory dwelling unit. And we have we've changed we've just changed the way the warrant reads. Okay, that we've added what was in there before. Okay. Um, but everything's the same, as what we were talking about, adding anything not mounted on a foundation, and then if all portions of the lot are located outside a half-mile radius of a transit station. Okay, are we good with that? Well, would someone make a motion that we recommend for positive action? Article 33.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second, thanks, Zilly. Okay, Steve,
Aye.
Zilly,
Aye.
great. Jenny,
Aye.
and then I vote aye. Okay, now we have to deal with the citizen petition. Um,
So my understanding
Are you
is,
able to share that again, Martha?
oh, sorry.
my,
Sorry to make you do that.
When I
my,
have my screen share, I can't, it's hard for me to see people. I can't see people. Okay. What do you want me to go down to? To the,
please.
okay,
Dun, dun, dun.
there it is.
Where is it? There it is, Article 37. So my understanding is we are only able to recommend the text that we have here.
Hmm.
And this is just for everybody in attendance. And any changes and amendments will need to be brought to the floor at town meeting.
That's my understanding.
They'll be voted to be accepted at town meeting as amendments, and then it goes in. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
This would come forward um, to town meeting. And then if Dick is so inclined, he can present amendments. Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong. He can present written amendments to the bylaw, to the article, gives them to the moderator, town council checks them out, and that it gets done in writing at town meeting, with any new language. Now, Dick is going to make the decision about whether to amend this or to do anything to it. And that's not we can't say you have to change it. We can't say, anything like that. But it would be up to Dick to do whatever amendments he thinks might be helpful, to his petition. So, yes, Dick?
So I will do that. The actual motion, I can make that motion also, or any citizen can make that motion. The planning board could also make the motion if, in fact, the suggestions that come forward that I can provide as amendments or changes to this, there would be an amendment, could also be made by the planning board at the time that this comes up, based on some deliberations that the planning board does, and does their own vote to say that essentially these are amendments that you agree with and recommend against it. So it's not necessarily just a citizen, myself or any other citizen. It
Of
could
course.
be the planning board doing it also. Is that true, Jen?
Yes, I think so. Right, Jenny?
Yeah. I was just thinking we could also potentially, if we're going to have another public hearing, we could potentially reopen this and discuss it again.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to do another um, public hearing at the end of April, I guess we could review this.
So could we have like the amended version at that time?
Yeah, that would be the idea.
I love that idea. And would it have to be in the notice? We'd have to make sure.
Oh, yeah, the legal notice would have to refer to the one that got left off, the first legal notice, and then it would refer to this one as well.
As an amendment, as an amendment, if we vote on this and pass this tonight, correct?
Right, we would be looking at the amendment, the amended version at the public hearing.
At a future meeting, right? Okay.
Okay. Okay, so what is the will of the board? Who would like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend positive action on a citizen's petition, Article 37.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Sorry, I think I may have misunderstood. I'm not seconding that because I thought we were gonna move to like not vote until the next one, until a future public hearing on the amended version.
Well, I think the concept is that there will be an amended version that will come to us and that we would review and re-vote at a public hearing at the end of April. I think that's what we're talking about here.
Okay.
Where's Jenny?
I'm
Can-
thinking, yeah, because technically we would be reopening the public hearing that we've already closed.
Right.
And so Steve is, well, I mean, I'll second your motion because then we can discuss it. Steve's recommending that we, regardless, recommend positive action on this, even if we don't get a revised. citizen-
Right. But if we, yes, yes,
Yeah. But then if we get a revision, we can reopen the hearing and
Right.
revise our recommendation.
yes,
hmm
exactly.
Right. Okay.
I can vote one way tonight and a different way the
You
next
sure
time.
could. Yeah. So Steve is saying he's fine with it. If it's going to be, I'm putting words in your mouth, Steve. If it's going to be,
You go,
this
girl.
or nothing, he recommends this. Right?
Yes. And I'll back that by saying or repeating what I said before. In the large picture, this is all an organic process. And you start somewhere, and you always start, and this is a personal opinion, you always start with protecting the residents. And I do think that this does that.
Okay. Is there a second to Steve's motion?
I already did that.
Jen
Oh, you did it. Sorry.
Jen did it.
Okay, well then I guess it's up to a vote now. We need to do a roll call vote. Zilly?
On this one, I'm saying no.
Okay, fair enough. Jenny?
Say aye.
Okay, Steve?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Okay, but I'm hoping that we reopen this hearing,
Yeah.
with recommendations that have come to Dick during this meeting. And so we'll take it from there.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
that's great.
Okay. Oh my goodness. So we have voted on all of the things that we need to vote on, I believe. Have we? I hope.
Yeah, you
Okay.
covered them all. You got them all.
All right, good.
Good job. You did a great job.
Nicely done, Martha.
Oh, thank you. Oh my goodness. Okay, we have one more thing. I sent you the annual report. I'll bet no one read it.
I'm sorry. I
All
did.
right. The annual report was always written by our administrator. So I ended up having to go back through all of the meeting agendas and minutes from the past year. And of course, it's always very confusing because it's not up to this date. It's a long time ago, and you kind of forget everything that's been going on. So I counted up the number of stormwater permits. I counted up, the number of X, Y, and Z permits. And let's see, what else did I do? I indicated, election results. Let me pull it up, see if I can. Um,
Martha, I have it open and I might be able to share. Do you want me to try?
yeah, if you can, that would be great.
Let me see. Oh no, it's sending, make me send a request.
Yeah.
Let me see if
Martha, you have to allow sharing
Um,
or the planning ZBA administrator.
yes, I'm looking
To
here.
allow sharing, we're gonna get Zoom bombing again. That's how it happened before.
Yeah.
Um,
all right. So maybe just ignore my offer.
Okay, Zilli is
I don't know that
requesting you
people
to
do that
allow
anymore, Billy.
multiple presenters to share. This is going to be short. They won't find us, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, give it a shot, Zilli.
All right, here we go.
Woo.
Did it work?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
So you see the permits and the approvals, the zoning amendments that we put forward last year. Um, various work that we did. Um, and I also mentioned the extensive amount of time that we worked on a dark sky bylaw. I felt that, we
Thank
spent
you.
so much time. Steve did so much on that, that I felt that we had to make mention of it. And then the bit about members and liaisons. And this is, the usual, and much appreciated, help from other parts of the town government. So,
so there's
Martha.
one typo.
oh,
It's just conform, not conform.
oh, okay.
That's it. That's all I spot.
I'll have to find it. I don't know where I put it, but I will find it and make that.
It's right there. You got it.
Under zoning amendments, item
Yeah, but
2.
this is me sharing, so she
Oh,
just
that's
needs to
you.
find it.
Okay.
I can't
Yeah, no.
edit. Yeah.
It's zoning amendments too. Yeah.
Okay,
Not a big deal. I'm sure
I'll find it. I
the
will
people that
find
are
it.
meticulously reading every word of the annual report.
Yeah, I'm kind of, I'm not sure of where I put that. It's in some folder or another, but it took me some time, as you might imagine, to put this
Yeah.
together. Anyway, I will fix that. And then, well, first of all, we have to vote. Would someone make a motion that we approve the annual report?
So moved.
Wonderful. Is there
And
wonderful? Steve,
What?
did you want to say yes or no?
I would like to say aye.
Aye. Okay. Jenny,
I,
Silly,
I
and I vote aye. Okay. Thank you very much. They will be so happy to get this, because they've been pressuring.
Martha, thank you for doing that. Going through a year's worth of minutes is no easy feat. So
Yeah, it wasn't fun. Yeah. But it's always good for us to look at these reports and see what we've actually been doing, over a year, and what we've accomplished. So that is gratifying. Okay, I would be delighted to entertain a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Very good.
is that Zilly?
That was
second.
Zilly.
You know I
And
love to
Jenny is
move
the
things.
second. And now roll call. Zilly,
I
Jenny,
I.
Steve,
Aye.
and I vote aye. I thank you
Yeah.
all for all of the work. Thank you so much.